Scientists analyzed Toland man's DNA. What they found is terrifying. Hello and welcome back to the Ancient History channel, where every story is not just about the past, but also about secrets that are still whispering to the present. My friend, have you ever wondered if a mummy could speak? What would it tell us? Would it be tales of peaceful days long gone, or secrets never revealed, buried for thousands of years beneath layers of earth, mud, ice, or even the ashes of time? Throughout the development of archaeology, humanity has more than once had to hold its breath in the face of extraordinary discoveries. There are bodies that seem to have vanished forever, only to reappear in an almost perfectly preserved state. There are skeletons that are not merely the remains of a human being, but pieces of stories that have never been told. What makes it even more fascinating is that every mummy, every ancient skeleton, is not just an inanimate relic. They are like time capsules, preserving information about the lives, beliefs, and even the fears of people in the past. From the way they ate and lived to the strange rituals that even today we still cannot fully understand. And here's something that might surprise you: the more we uncover, the more we realize that history is far more complex than what has been recorded. So, over the years, what have archaeologists truly discovered? Which mysteries have been revealed, and how many are still waiting to be uncovered? Do you think you're ready to step into this journey where each discovery might make you question everything you once believed to be true? If you are, then let's begin with our very first discovery right now. DNA reveals a 4,000-year-old truth about the Xiaohe princess, the famous princess of Xinjiang. In a place so harsh that even its name evokes a sense of desolation, the Lop Nur Desert in Xinjiang, there exists a story that has puzzled archaeologists for decades. Not because they failed to find evidence, but quite the opposite. They found too many strange things, so many that it became difficult to explain them logically. Among these discoveries, the most remarkable is a mummy known by a mysterious name, the Xiaohe princess. The story began in 2004, when the Xiaohe cemetery was recognized as one of China's top 10 archaeological discoveries. During excavations, archaeologists uncovered numerous mummies buried deep beneath the scorching sands. Yet among them, one female body stood out, so much so that anyone who saw it would pause for a few seconds. Not because it was frightening, but because it was astonishingly well preserved. The body was almost completely intact. Her hair remained, her skin retained its form, and most strikingly, her face carried a strange, gentle expression, as if she were smiling. For this reason, she became known as the Smiling Princess or the Xiaohe Princess. However, what puzzled scientists even more was her appearance. Unlike the typical features associated with ancient Asian populations, this princess displayed traits that resembled those of Europeans. She wore clothing made of wool, and archaeological evidence suggests that her people's diet included beef, mutton, millet, wheat, barley, and even cheese, foods that were not common in this region at that time. So think about it. How could a woman who lived about 4,000 years ago in an isolated desert possess features that many would associate with Europeans? This is where the story becomes complicated. For many years, numerous hypotheses were proposed. Some believed these people came from Siberia, others suggested Central Asia or even northern Afghanistan. But all of these remained speculation, until modern technology provided answers. A study published in the prestigious scientific journal Nature completely changed the narrative. Scientists from the United States, Germany, China, and South Korea collaborated to analyze the DNA of 18 mummies, including 13 from the Xiaohe site. Among them, this famous princess. The results left the entire archaeological community stunned. Genetic analysis revealed that these individuals were not migrants from elsewhere. Instead, they were direct descendants of an ancient population dating back to the Holocene, tens of thousands of years ago, around the end of the Ice Age. This was a population that had once been widespread but had nearly vanished from human history. In other words, they represented a distinct ancient lineage with a gene pool that was almost completely isolated. A rare surviving legacy within the course of human evolution. This finding effectively overturned all previous theories about origins in Siberia or Central Asia. These people had lived, developed, and reproduced within the Tarim Basin itself in remarkable isolation. As a result, they possessed highly unique genetic traits, so distinct that only a small trace remains in modern humans today. Does that give you chills? A culture that once existed independently in a harsh desert, neither fully assimilated nor entirely erased, quietly leaving behind traces that endure to this day. According to experts, this discovery not only helps solve the mystery of the Xiaohe princess, but also opens up an entirely new perspective on cultural interactions during the Bronze Age in Asia. It shows that human history is far more complex than we once believed. But the story doesn't end there. Let's return to our main figure, the Xiaohe princess. The title sounds noble, doesn't it? But the reality is quite surprising. Despite being called a princess, she was not royalty, did not belong to the elite, and held no special social status. Her burial method, as well as the grave goods found with her, were identical to those of ordinary individuals in the cemetery. So why call her a princess? Simply put, because she was extraordinarily beautiful. A beauty so striking that it's hard to believe her body had lain beneath the sand for 4,000 years. A delicate, peaceful face with a faint smile that seems to linger from the past. And perhaps that is what makes this story so captivating. You see, from an ordinary person living in a mysterious community, she unexpectedly became the key to unlocking one of the greatest questions in modern archaeology. Fascinating, isn't it? The skeletons of 5,000-year-old giants in China. When people think of ancient humans, many imagine small, slender figures living simple lives in harsh natural environments. However, an archaeological discovery in Shandong Province, eastern China, has forced many to completely rethink that image. Here, archaeologists uncovered the skeletons of giants dating back as far as 5,000 years, individuals whose height would be impressive even by modern standards. Specifically, during excavations, scientists discovered multiple tombs containing the remains of men standing up to about 6 feet 3 inches tall, while others measured around 5 feet 11 inches. These figures are not estimates. They were determined based on well-preserved skeletal structures. At this point, many people might wonder, in a time when food was scarce and living conditions were difficult, how could people grow so tall? According to Fang Hui, head of the School of History and Culture at Shandong University, if the tallest individual were still alive and standing fully upright, his actual height might even exceed 6 feet 3 inches. Even more intriguing is that these taller individuals were often buried in larger, more elaborate tombs compared to shorter individuals. This detail has led researchers to believe they may have held important roles within their community, possibly of higher social status or at least with better access to food resources. Beyond their remarkable height, these skeletons tell additional stories. Upon closer examination, archaeologists found clear signs of injuries on the skulls and leg bones of several individuals. These wounds raise many questions. Were they involved in battles or conflicts, or did they endure harsh events during their lives? In addition, within 6 of the giant tombs, researchers also discovered pottery and jade artifacts, items that not only held practical value, but also carried significant spiritual and social meaning at the time. The excavation site is located in Jiaojia Village, Shandong Province. Since 2016, this site has yielded a series of remarkable discoveries, including the remains of 104 houses, 205 tombs, and 20 sacrificial pits. These numbers suggest that Jiaojia was once a large, well-organized settlement with a relatively advanced community life during the Neolithic period. The story becomes even more fascinating when considering that Shandong is also the birthplace of several historically tall and prominent figures. Confucius, the renowned Chinese philosopher, is believed to have stood around 6 feet 3 inches tall and was born in this region. Zhuge Liang, the legendary strategist of the Three Kingdoms period, was born in Yangdu, now part of Shandong Province, and is often described as tall with a striking presence. Could it be that this region has long had a tradition of producing tall individuals? It's certainly possible, as even today, the people of Shandong 2,000-year-old mummy still has hair and beard found in a Danish bog. Imagine yourself walking through a quiet bog deep in the peaceful countryside of Denmark. The ground is soaked, mud reaching up to your ankles, the air crisp and cool, filled with the faint smell of decaying plants and damp earth. Suddenly, a scene unfolds that would send chills down anyone's spine. A human body curled up in the mud, skin perfectly preserved, a calm expression on the face as if peacefully napping. Sounds like a crime thriller, right? But this is no staged scene. This is the discovery that shook the world of archaeology. The Tollund Man, the most famous bog mummy ever found, dating back over 2,000 years. It happened in 1950. A group of workers harvesting peat in the Bjeldskov bog in western Denmark unexpectedly came across the body of a man curled up, his head tilted to one side, and, most notably, a rope tied tightly around his neck. His expression was hauntingly strange. No pain, no fear, just an eerie calmness, as if he had been ready to meet death. The police were called immediately, suspecting a recent homicide. But the deeper the investigation went, the more unexpected the story became. Archaeologists quickly stepped in, and after a series of detailed tests, they reached a conclusion that stunned the world. This body dated back to the 4th century BCE, over 2,300 years ago. They named the man Tollund Man, after the place where he was found. But do you know what made him truly extraordinary? It was the astonishing state of preservation. His hair was still intact on his head, his beard hadn't fallen out, and even his skin retained some elasticity. It was as if he had just closed his eyes yesterday, not been resting under the mud for more than 2 millennia. So what kept this body so well preserved through time? The answer lies right beneath him. A special type of acidic bog mud combined with an oxygen-free environment completely stopped bacteria and natural decay processes. Instead of rotting like usual, the body was naturally mummified in a miraculous way, like a priceless gift time had accidentally preserved. But the story doesn't end there, because the biggest mystery remains. Who was Tollund Man? Why was he hanged? And why does his expression seem so unbelievably peaceful? Some researchers believe he may have been sacrificed in a religious ritual, a custom that existed in Iron Age Europe. Back then, people believed human sacrifices pleased the gods and would bring abundant harvests. The rope marks around Tollund Man's neck, along with his curled, respectful posture, support this theory. But that's just speculation. To this day, Tollund Man's true identity remains a mystery. He could have been a prisoner, a convicted criminal, or even a high-status individual chosen as a living offering for a sacred ceremony. Mysterious Pyramid reveals the timeless face of a 4,000-year-old princess. When we think of pyramids, we usually imagine massive structures filled with unsolved mysteries, especially those in Egypt. But here's the thing. Not all Egyptian pyramids are famous. Some lie quietly beneath layers of sand, unnoticed until one day, they reveal a secret powerful enough to astonish the entire archaeological world. And the case at Dahshur, an ancient royal necropolis located about 22 miles south of Cairo, is a perfect example. During a survey conducted by experts from Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, they discovered a pyramid with an unusual structure, unlike the ones previously known. That alone was enough to prompt a deeper excavation. Then, upon entering the interior, they came across an ancient coffin resting silently in a sealed space for thousands of years. At first, the coffin didn't seem particularly remarkable. It had been broken into multiple pieces, its wood decayed, its parts scattered by the passage of time. But as the fragments were carefully reassembled, something unexpected began to emerge. A face. Not just a simple drawing, but a carefully detailed human face carved directly onto the surface of the coffin. Every line, every feature was distinct, so much so that it felt less like an artifact and more like the presence of a real person. Why would ancient people carve a face onto a coffin? What were they trying to preserve? The answer came through scientific analysis. Experts determined that the remains inside belonged to Hatshepsut, the daughter of Pharaoh Amenemhat, who lived around 4,000 years ago. A royal figure, yet one who appears only rarely in historical records. That's why this discovery feels like finding a missing piece of a long-lost puzzle. Beyond the coffin, the burial site also contained several ancient jars inscribed with carefully carved hieroglyphs. Among them, the phrase "King's Daughter" appeared clearly, confirming the identity of the deceased. All these details, when put together, form a fairly clear picture of the princess's identity. But the story is not entirely complete. Before archaeologists arrived, the pyramid had already been looted by tomb robbers. They broke into the coffin and took many valuable grave goods, including jewelry, items that ancient Egyptians believed were essential for the afterlife. That means part of the history has been lost forever. And yet, what remains is still enough to leave a deep impression. A princess who lived 4,000 years ago, buried in her own pyramid, with her face carved onto her coffin as a way to preserve her image. Despite the passage of time, despite the damage and intrusion, that image endured, waiting to be rediscovered. Perhaps what makes this discovery so special is not just its archaeological value, but what it reveals about how ancient people viewed death. To them, death was not an end, it was a continuation, a journey where identity and memory still needed to be preserved. And so, thousands of years later, when the sand is brushed away, a face appears once more, silent, yet powerful enough to tell an entire story. The skeletons of 5,000-year-old giants in China. When people think of ancient humans, many imagine small, slender figures living simple lives in harsh natural environments. However, an archaeological discovery in Shandong Province, eastern China, has forced many to completely rethink that image. Here, archaeologists uncovered the skeletons of giants dating back as far as 5,000 years, individuals whose height would be impressive even by modern standards. Specifically, during excavations, scientists discovered multiple tombs containing the remains of men standing up to about 6 feet 3 inches tall, while others measured around 5 feet 11 inches. These figures are not estimates, they were determined based on well-preserved skeletal structures. At this point, many people might wonder, in a time when food was scarce and living conditions were difficult, how could people grow so tall? According to Fang Hui, head of the School of History and Culture at Shandong University, if the tallest individual were still alive and standing fully upright, his actual height might even exceed 6 feet 3 inches. Even more intriguing is that these taller individuals were often buried in larger, more elaborate tombs compared to shorter individuals. This detail has led researchers to believe they may have held important roles within their community, possibly of higher social status or at least with better access to food resources. Beyond their remarkable height, these skeletons tell additional stories. Upon closer examination, archaeologists found clear signs of injuries on the skulls and leg bones of several individuals. These wounds raise many questions. Were they involved in battles or conflicts, or did they endure harsh events during their lives? In addition, within 6 of the giant tombs, researchers also discovered pottery and jade artifacts, items that not only held practical value, but also carried significant spiritual and social meaning at the time. The excavation site is located in Jiaojia Village, Shandong Province. Since 2016, this site has yielded a series of remarkable discoveries, including the remains of 104 houses, 205 tombs, and 20 sacrificial pits. These numbers suggest that Jiaojia was once a large, well-organized settlement with a relatively advanced community life during the Neolithic period. The story becomes even more fascinating when considering that Shandong is also the birthplace of several historically tall and prominent figures. Confucius, the renowned Chinese philosopher, is believed to have stood around 6 feet 3 inches tall and was born in this region. Zhuge Liang, the legendary strategist of the Three Kingdoms period, was born in Yangdu, now part of Shandong Province, and is often described as tall with a striking presence. Could it be that this region has long had a tradition of producing tall individuals? It's certainly possible, as even today, the people of Shandong take pride in their height. For example, in 2015, men in Shandong were recorded to have an average height of about 5 feet 9 inches, higher than the national average. Looking back at these 5,000-year-old skeletons, many are left wondering how much genetics, environment, and diet contributed to their exceptional height, and I am no exception. All of these giant skeletons belong to a Neolithic civilization dating from about 4,500 to 5,000 years ago, once living along the lower reaches of the Yellow River. To this day, there is still no definitive answer as to why they were so tall. However, a diverse and abundant food supply is considered a key factor. Beyond the astonishing skeletons, the colorful pottery and jade artifacts found at Jiaojia also reflect a relatively prosperous and comfortable life for its inhabitants, leaving future generations with both unanswered questions and a deep sense of wonder.